On today's episode, we have part 2 of our conversation with Dylan Travers of Emerald City Hockey, where we talk about the future of the organization and the direction they should be heading as they go into the draft.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's up? What's going on? I'm Zaiem Beg, and I'm a Seattle-based journalist covering the Seattle Supersonics, Torrington Kraken, and welcome to Locked On Kraken. Today's episode is brought to you by Odoo. That's right, Odoo. Great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try for free at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. On today's episode, we talk about all sorts of Kraken things. We talk about, I asked Dylan, would he rather cover Vegas or Seattle? The question of, is running it back the right thing for Seattle to do this season because it gives them a chance to get a top pick next year, or is that crazy? And we also talk about the Lane Lambert system that Dylan really had a lot of really interesting and nuanced and thoughtful insights about what to look for in a player that excels in the system versus players who don't. We know that Jared McCann, it seems like he wants out. Wright might be out. Vince Dunn doesn't seem like a great fit for the system. And we ask, okay, well, why is that the case? And so without further ado, this is my second part interview with Dylan Travers. So I was going to ask you this. So you talk about the Lane Lambert system, and it's something that we talked a lot about the show, but you really have a lot of nuances. We've mentioned your system breakdown videos now on the Red Glare podcast, which were previously on the Patreon. They're free, and so check those out. And it's not the first time I've mentioned them on this pod, by the way. It's just so you know.
Appreciate it.
It's good quality. It's good quality stuff. So, So when you look at a player and you say, okay, is this person is a fit for the Kraken or not? What are the skills that you're looking at? What are the actual things that I can look at and say, hey, this player is good at this or not good at this, and this is why they're good or bad for the Lane Lambert system?
Right. Like I said earlier, right, Lane Lambert wants to play a low event style. And that basically what I mean by that is just there's not going to be a lot of shots. There's not going to be a lot of what the NHL deems events, right? Things that are going to go onto a box sheet, shots on goal, things of that nature. And so when you're looking at players that can fit into that system, defensively, you're looking at guys that maybe can block shots, so they're not going to get through to the goaltender, can box out the other team, force them to the perimeter, where then they're going to cycle the puck around the defensive zone, kind of looking for openings, and then you just have to hope that your guys don't give them any, which is easier said than done. But you very much want a team that's going to force the other team out, right? You want to limit them to the perimeter. You want them to throw weak shots on net from there, and then you want to clear the puck out of your zone kind of as fast as you can. That's the idea. That's what they're trying to go for out there. And then in the offensive zone, you want to be able to kind of cycle the puck in the offensive zone, maintain control of it. You're not so much prioritizing offensive chances for yourself so much as you're prioritizing that control and just making sure that, hey, kind of like I was saying earlier with Carolina, as long as the puck's on our stick, nothing bad can happen, right? The other team's not going to score if the puck's on our stick and we're in the offensive zone. And so that's a lot of what the Kraken want to do, is just kind of prioritize possession at the offensive zone, kind of prioritize depossession in the defensive zone. I don't think that that's
Sure.
a word, but that's ultimately what they're going for. So when you're looking at players, you want to look for certainly defensemen, but also forwards that can back check and make sure that they're going to be able to play in their spots defensively. They're going to be able to move. And I think this is where the Kraken struggle a lot, is in the defensive zone. When you're talking about limiting the other team to the perimeter, it means that there is going to be a lot of puck movement because you're clogging up the middle of the ice. It allows them to move the puck around. And because they're moving it around at the perimeter, it means that it can go from high to low pretty quick. It can go from side to side pretty quick, kind of go diagonally through the zone at times pretty quick. And so one of the things that I think the Kraken need to prioritize more is not so much big physical players to push the other team out to the perimeter, because I think you can push them out to the perimeter just by having proper player position. I think they need to focus on making sure that they have players in the defensive zone that can be a little bit quicker on their feet, right? You don't need to have blazing fast straight line speed, but you need to have fast feet. You need to be able to accelerate and be a little rangy and get back into your spot. A lot of the breakdowns last year that the Kraken had were because their defensemen in particular, they'd go into the corner or they'd go below the goal line to, try to body up the other team. But in that process, they would pull themselves out of position net front, and they weren't fast enough to get back there, right? They weren't always fast enough to fully engage that opposing team's player and stop the puck back there and then cause some sort of breakout for the Kraken, right? They'd get there, but the other team would have the ability to kind of move the puck along the boards, and all of a sudden it's up top and the other defenseman has it. The other team's, defenseman up at the point has it, and the Kraken defensive player just doesn't get back fast at all, right? We saw this a lot with Adam Larson, see it almost every shift with Ryan Lindgren, see it a lot with Jamie Alexiak, at times Riker Evans, where they're pulling themselves out of position to try to go physically engage the opponent. They weren't really physical enough to properly engage that opponent and stop that possession for the other team. And so essentially all they did was pull themselves out of position, and they're not quick enough to get back into position and help out their goaltender. And that's how you end up with so many odd man situations net front. So for me, as far as who the Kraken should be targeting, I want players with fast feet. I want players that can move. They'll probably continue to prioritize just fighting big physical guys because that's the theory behind the system, is that you physically engage the opponent and you keep them trapped against the boards and then they can't move the puck. Practice has told us that that's not really, it doesn't get it done in today's NHL. And then offensively, they need players that can cycle the puck better, right? They need players, and at the end of the day, I think this is just a hockey IQ thing. They need players that can just kind of think about what the position that they're in is at any given time, and understand when does it make sense to cycle it below the net, when does it make sense to send it up high to the point, and just be able to process that. Because right now, a lot of times in the offensive zone, they'll go to cycle the puck and then they'll just kind of go based off of muscle memory without ever really picking their head up. And other teams, after the first 20 or so games of the season last year, they learned where the Kraken wanted to go, right? They wanted to cycle back behind the net and kind of do little handoffs back there. Teams just started parking a defender back there, just completely disrupted what the Kraken wanted to do. And the Kraken just kept falling for it. And so it's one of those things where I think you just need players that can think on their feet a little bit more. And in the offensive zone, cycle the puck and move the puck to where defenders aren't, right? And if that means just sending it back to the point and then sending it back to another guy and two guys just play catch for a little while, that's fine. That's what your system wants. The system just wants you to have possession. It's not looking for you to create dangerous scoring chances. It's okay then to just prioritize that possession. And that's something that I felt like they kind of struggled with a lot last year, was they would kind of do like one round of cycling and then they were like, okay, we have to take a shot now. And then they just take some low quality shot from who knows where in the offensive zone and turn the puck over, essentially. Like you have to be a little bit smarter about it.
Yeah. Well, one name you didn't mention as someone who was not a poor fit is Vince Dunn, who I think is a pretty interesting player on this team, because I think there's some stuff that he does really well that he doesn't get to do well in the Lane Lambert system. I remember like the stretch pass numbers, like in the first 2 years, it was like just ridiculous how much offense they're generating, and how Kraken were so dependent on Vince Dunn specifically on like those zone exits. And you don't really see that as much. And, I don't know how much of that is just, he's 30 now. So he's, I guess, probably past his peak, but it's probably not that.
Yeah, no, it's not that. It is the defensive system, because it's either tethering him to the goal front a lot, right, to defend that net front, or it's putting him where he's having to focus in the defensive zone on physically engaging a player rather than just trying to collect the puck and moving it up the ice, right? And Lane Lambert's system wants the big physical defenseman to play big and physical. It wants them to tie up the opposing team's player, and then a back checker, a forward comes over, collects the puck, and then you start your breakout from there, right? That's what they go for a lot, or your defensive partner comes over. And so that it's changing what Vince Dunn does well, and certainly what the Kraken realistically need him to be doing, which is playing the puck. Instead, he's focusing a lot on playing the body. And he can do that, right? Like he's a physical guy, like he can do it, but again, you're just not making the best use of his skill set and what makes him special as a player when you're having him do that.
Yeah, it's just like not harnessing the full power of Vince Dunn. Yeah, interesting. And I wonder, I know that you talked about this. I'm pretty sure you talked about this on your podcast about potentially trading him. His contract is up, not this off season, but next season.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the free agents and stuff, and arguably more important than any of their pending UFAs this year is just the decisions that they have to make on him and Jared McCann, right?
Yeah.
Like, what is your roster identity going forward, right? Because clearly right now, if your roster identity is big physical and you want to be bringing in your Jason Botterill and you're bringing in players like Ryan Lindgren, like we just talked about, Vince Dunn, it doesn't fit his style anymore, right? So it is your roster identity that you want big physical defensemen and not puck movers. Okay, I think that's the wrong direction to go, but let's say you're going in that direction. Yeah, Vince Dunn with a year left on his contract at a pretty decent fixed cost for somebody becomes an attractive piece that you could go out there and move.
The World Cup is here, and it's the most electric time in soccer. On KALSHI, you can trade every single match and the championship game. On June 25th, we have Japan versus Sweden. Japan is trading at a probability of 45% to beat Sweden, meaning a $100 trade pays out $213.98 if they win. As the World Cup heats up, those numbers move in real time, and you can buy in or out at any time. On KALSHI, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there is no house, and as the probability changes, you can buy in or out of your position. For a limited time, download the KALSHI app and use code LOCKEDON to get $10 when you trade 10. KALSHI. KALSHI, trade on anything. Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that never were designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other, and that's where Odoo comes in. That's right. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place, helping your team move faster, stay organized, and focus on growing the business instead of managing software. The best organizations know success isn't just about talent. It's about having everyone working towards the same goal. And that's just true in sports, just like it is in business. The Kraken, they brought in this audit. They did an audit and they reviewed their operations. And they were trying to do that to get their whole organization aligned, just like Odoo can do for you. Gets the whole organization pulling in the same direction with their front office decisions, their off-season decisions, or whatever the business equivalent is for you. And it's not just one great player or one great coach or one great executive. It's a coordinated effort across the entire organization that made it successful. We've seen that pattern with successful organizations. Everyone has a common goal. They're moving in the same direction. And you can do the same thing with you, because great organizations win because operations matter. And that's why you should get Odoo. The Kraken, hopefully in their audit, they found out that operations matter, because hockey operations matter, and maybe they should try Odoo. And if they do, they can try it for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. Get your daily Locked On Kraken fix completely ad-free by joining the Everyday Club today. Start your 7-day free trial right now and get closer to your team without the interruptions. Click the link in the show notes or go to lockedonpodcast.com/everyday to claim your free trial. Second worst odds to win the Stanley Cup next year. Only Vancouver is worse. And you just let it ride. You let it ride, baby. Yeah. Because then now you're in the lottery, and then maybe you get your little Landon DuPont. Mm-hmm. And you don't need to have the self-awareness to realize that you're bad. The universe will tell you that you're bad. And this year's Kraken had a goaltending bender, and they still ended up with the sixth worst record, right? Mm-hmm. And they were lucky. Now everyone's everyone's a year older, and okay, sure, that helps with people like Berkeley Catton, but also your Brandon Montour is older and Chandler Stevens older, and I think overall the team gets a little bit worse if you just run it back. Is this crazy?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It's what they're doing. It's what they're doing. So like, sorry everybody, but like be ready for it. But no, that's what they're doing. I'm with you. It doesn't make sense. You listen to whether it's Jason Bottrell, Todd Lewicki, anybody really talk about last season, and what did they focus on? Hey, we were in the playoff picture until there was like 2 weeks left in the season, ignoring the fact that it was the most abysmal playoff picture and the worst division that the NHL has seen potentially ever, but certainly arguably in the salary cap era. So it's one of those things where like I get that they thought that they were closer than they were, and you always in professional sports, I think having delusions of grandeur at times just a little bit is a healthy thing, right? You have to believe that you can go out there and do it. But everything has told you that this roster and this core group of players that you've largely had now for 5 years is not it, right? Like you have finished bottom 10 4 out of your 5 years of existence. I don't know what else kind of you need to see. I forever have said that sports is a results driven business, and this team kind of seems to ignore that somehow because we don't see a lot of turnover and change despite the results not really being there. I promise in other markets it is, but for some reason the hockey market here doesn't seem to be one. But yeah, it's one of those where I don't know how they keep running it back. I don't know why you'd keep running it back. I understand if you're like, look, we can't sell the fans on a total rebuild when the whole idea was that we spent the last 5 years building, right? Like that's the idea. I know so many fans kind of still push back on the idea of a rebuild because the team is still building. No, it is what it is. And you are looking at a core group that has mostly guys over 30, like you said, or you're looking at young players that are not taking steps forward, right? You're looking at Matty Beniers, who who took a step forward last year to try to get back to where he was before, right? Or you're looking at Shane Wright, take a big step backwards. You're looking at a Berkeley Catton, who did have really good positive stretches at time, but you look at like the overall point production and everything, and you're saying this is, it's not great for a 19-year-old in today's NHL when you look at what what these kids can kind of come into the league and do now. So it's one of those where, yeah, I think that the Kraken are going to run it back, but I don't know how you don't get certainly a bottom 10, if not a bottom 5 result out of it.
I mean, that's the thing, right? It's like, it's a joke, but it's not a joke. It's like you run it back. They run it back thinking that they can get to the playoffs. I think they run it back because that's their best chance to end up with like a bottom or a top 3 pick. Like the approach is the same. I just think the expected results are very, very different.
Well, and I do wonder like how much of that is known and thought about internally, because none of it's communicated to the fans, right? Like communication from this organization is basically non-existent. And certainly everything at the end of the year was, we think we're close and we're going for it, right? Like some questions were asked directly, including one by my partner RJ, who was like, hey, do you consider a transition year here where you take a step back, try to get younger and then move forward? And Jason Bottrell shot that down very fast.
Well, he did not answer RJ's question. True. He answered a completely different question.
That's right. Yeah. So it's one of those things where I do wonder though, if we find ourselves at, the Christmas break around New Year's and they are sitting bottom 5, bottom 10 in the league, and it's clear that they're not going to be going to the postseason, does the messaging from the team turn around into, yeah, I mean, look, we were trying to get Landon DuPont. We're trying to build for the future and make sure that we can acquire a star player through the draft. Like, is that just like a built-in contingency that they have and that they've talked about? And is that why we're seeing so little change despite the poor results and kind of how things have gone on? I don't know. I would hope the Kraken fans could see through that. I think everybody would. But it's one of those things where, yeah, I could see them, as they always do, right? Like they're going to put the spin on whatever situation they find themselves in.
One thing I meant to talk to you about when it was happening was, You remember? So there was the initial press conference by Todd Lewicki where that was a climate pledge. Which, by the way, thank you again by messaging me and telling me that it wasn't at KCI climate pledge. So you saved me all sorts of grief. And his Todd Lewicki's tone that day was a lot more somber. It felt. It was like, we haven't delivered on the promise of this team. And then at exit interviews, it seemed like the tone had changed. And I wonder, is that a coincidence? Do you think that maybe there was some outside influence to change the messaging? It struck me as like, this is not the same message that we had. Like, it was like, what, 2 weeks apart.
Yeah.
And I wonder if there's some other outside external factors that influence that.
I mean, there definitely could have been, right? Ownership could have been like, hey, this is what we're doing. It could have also just been that, look, you're having that first presser on the day that you are parting ways with Ron Francis, somebody who was a massive part of the Kraken coming into existence and being the team that they are, the brand that they are, right? Not just the team on the ice, but the brand as a whole. And so you're not gonna be like, yeah, we're taking a great step forward by dumping this guy, right? Like you're not gonna
get out of here.
Yeah, that would be pretty unprofessional. Whereas at exit interviews, because they didn't want to send the message that they are going towards a transition year and that they need to take a step back and approach everything, because they wanted to sell everybody on the what was the superlative used for the off season? The it wasn't monumental, but the unprecedented, prolific. Yeah, that was it.
It was prolific off season. Yeah.
Because you're trying to sell this idea of a prolific off season, you kind of have to be upbeat. You kind of have to be like, yeah, we're gonna do it, and everything is positive and everything's awesome. So I think that's mostly what it was. I think the tone just kind of had to match the events to a degree. I do think there's also just more levels of, at that point in time, they're starting to see what does the organization and the plan moving forward look like without a Ron Francis. And so it's easy to then get kind of excited about that just in any organization when there's kind of a change in leadership. So I think there was some of that stuff at play.
ED is way more common than most guys think, and millions of men deal with it at some point. HIMS offers a simple, convenient way to take care of your health by connecting you with licensed healthcare providers online and giving you access to personalized treatment options from the comfort of home. No awkward appointments, no pharmacy lines, just a straightforward process designed to make getting care easier. Taking care of yourself shouldn't feel complicated, and HIMS makes the process private and easy to navigate. It's healthcare built around your schedule and your comfort. Between work, family, everything else going on, maybe a podcast, finding times for appointments can be tough. Having access to licensed providers online gives you the ability to prioritize your health without having to rearrange your entire day. To get simple online access to personalized, affordable care for ED, hair loss, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/lockedonnhl. That's hims.com/lockedonnhl for your free online visit. hims.com/lockedonnhl. Prescription required. See website for details and important safety information. Sildenafil is a generic version of Viagra. Viagra is registered trademark of Viatris. Specialty LLC. HIMS is not affiliated or endorsed by Viatris. Yeah, I really want to know the results of the Sportsology audit. I've had a couple of friends who have done Sportsology audits, like with professional organizations, and the feedback has been kind of mixed. One of them was like, these guys, they didn't use a lot of data. They're not very data driven, which is like a huge red flag for me. But then one of them was like, oh no, they were like, I thought they were going to be just like, snake oil salesmen or whatever, but they were very data driven. And the thing that they were really good at was rooting out like what the organizational problems were, like who's lying, who's trying to take more credit than they deserve, who's throwing people under the bus, finding out like the organizational rot, and then figuring out like who the bad actors are and who's dragging things down. It does not seem from the outside to me, aside from some conflict between Jason Botterill and Ron Francis, which has since been cleared because Ron Francis is gone, that there was a lot of like organizational dysfunction, but I'm speculating here. But the problems with this organization don't strike me as like, man, it's just a clown show. Like they don't have anything in order. And so in the sense that like Sportsology can find the mole and find the secret saboteurs, I don't know if the Kraken really have like that's been their problem.
Yeah, I can't imagine that behind the scenes. Yeah, there's a lot of jockeying for credit and a cutthroat atmosphere to take credit for a team that, as we just talked about, consistently finds itself at the bottom of the standings. I don't know that that's exactly what you want to be doing. I think from the outside, from our dealings with the team, from talking with some of the people that work for the team, I think that there's a level of bureaucracy at times with the way that this team operates that potentially is something that can get in the way. And I don't know how much of that is realistically on the hockey ops side, right? Like, I don't think that everything needs to be cleared through 3 different departments whenever they want to go and make a trade, right? But I do think that that is something that does exist within this Kraken organization and something that they've been trying to address internally over the last 18 months or so. So I think that there's a level of that going on. But yeah, in terms of like actual hockey ops stuff, I don't think that there is a bad actor in there that's kind of messing things up or creating this toxic workplace environment. I think it just comes down to, at the end of the day, ownership, including on down to, say Todd Lewicki, right? And that kind of level of management for the team. They have a certain expectation on what the team could be or what they want the team to be. And they just kind of keep pursuing that without taking a hard look at themselves, right? Without some kind of proper reflection on where the roster is and what does it actually take to build an NHL team to get there. And that's something that I think could be maybe going on right now, where they want the brand to be successful and really establish it here in Seattle, which is important. And I think that they've largely done a good job about that. Everybody that I run into, I say I cover the Kraken, even if they're not sports people, they know who the Kraken are. I see hats and t-shirts everywhere for the team, right? So I think that that's all really positive, and they've done a good job there in establishing the brand. Now they need to focus on actually doing the hard work that it takes to build a winning hockey team. And that does mean realistically taking a step back, or a more purposeful step back. They're already kind of in the back just because they're picking 7th again, right? but taking an actual purposeful step back, go ahead, try to get into that top 3, try to win a draft lottery, and build around the young core group of players. Don't keep bringing out Jordan Eberle and Jaden Schwartz and Adam Larson and all of these guys that are just constantly getting older and have proven time and time again they aren't the answer.
All right, one last question before I let you go. So talking about this organization, and I think they could use a little bit more urgency. And so you have now, I'm giving you like a genie has come to you, and you can choose one of 2 realities, right? Everything else about your life is great, but you can either cover the Seattle Kraken or the Vegas Golden Knights. Which is a more enjoyable, or which is a more desirable experience for you?
It's got to be covering the Kraken, right? Like if covering Vegas, I'd have to be looking over my shoulder all the time, just about like, oh my gosh, can I say this? Is the team going to take my credential away for trying to actually do my job and do real reporting, right? Like I don't want to exist in an environment like that. And obviously there's people like you around on the Kraken side of things, right? I don't want to lose this awesome friend network that I've been able to build.
Oh, but you're
right?
an alternate universe. You didn't know
alternate universe. I don't know you at all. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I still think realistically, I'd like to cover the Seattle Kraken just because, one, I'd rather be in Seattle than Vegas, and 2, like I said, I think the organization does do a good job of dealing with us by and large. And as much as covering a winning team is more enjoyable than covering a losing team, not having to deal with that added bit of drama and concern and worry about doing my job the way that I think the job needs to be done, and in a way that the fans deserve, I think that's a pretty important thing at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been strongly on Team Seattle in this regard. And then also it's nice that the Kraken, whenever they make bad decisions, it's just like, ah, man, that's a bad cap move. That's bad for your rut player development. That's bad for these hockey decisions. It's not because this is bad for society.
Right.
You know, so it's just you can just be mad at the Kraken for making like bad hockey decisions, and that's where it starts and ends. With like being a Vegas Golden Knights fan, you have to be mad at the organization for things that are far more important, even if you're not mad at them for not winning.
Right. No,
And
exactly.
it's like, you know, and Torrent fans are going through that right now because they just
Yes.
drafted Abby Murphy, and you know, like I'm going through that reckoning. Everyone's going through that reckoning. And so that'll be really, really interesting, especially in a league that is far more sensitive to you know, right-wing politics and such. But we'll say that for maybe another time.
Yeah.
Dylan, where can they find your stuff?
Yeah, you could find all of my Kraken coverage over at Emerald City Hockey. Our social handle is Emerald City HKY. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, all the social stuff. I'm not a big social media guy, so I'm always bad at promoting this sort of thing. But we do have our weekly podcast, The Deep Dive. You can find that wherever you listen and enjoy podcasts. And then, for league-wide coverage, we have the Red Glare podcast, where we look at all the 31 other teams of the National Hockey League and what's going on around the NHL.
Well, so you heard him across these last two episodes. You heard the hockey knowledge. You heard the IQ. And we're just so lucky to have you. Thank you so much, Dylan. This was so much fun. It was so good seeing you. I can't wait to see you in person. Probably some draft event, or maybe we got Dev Camp coming up. I don't know. But this was awesome. Truly a joy. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Kraken. We will be back tomorrow. Make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On Kraken so you get all the latest episodes. You can find us at Davy Jones LR on all social media platforms, or at DavyJonesLockerRoom.com, where we do print coverage of the Seattle Torrent and the Seattle Kraken. And if you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Kraken ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to LockedOnPodcast.com/Everydayer to join the club. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure this is one of your 2 daily listens. For Davy Jones Locker Room, I'm Zaiem Beg, and I will see you tomorrow.